Hello, this is Jeff Morgan. You are listening to an authorized audio version of the Galactic Federation. If this kind of material is interesting to you and you'd like to continue, you're welcome to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can also find my other books on Amazon Kindle. Thank you for listening.
Chapter 2. The Pleroma, the Demiurge, and the Archons, the Primordial Cosmic Divide. Introduction. The Origins of Division. To truly grasp the roots of Earth's present isolation, one must venture beyond the familiar terrain of human history and explore the deeper, more ancient schism embedded within the architecture of the cosmos itself. This primordial divide, articulated most clearly within Gnostic and esoteric traditions, describes not merely a theological or philosophical disagreement, but a fundamental bifurcation in the very fabric of reality. It is a fracture that has shaped not only the human experience, but the evolutionary trajectory of countless civilizations across the stars. At the heart of this cosmic divide lies a profound tension between two contrasting realms, the Pleroma and the construct of the Demiurge. The Pleroma represents the undistorted realm of pure, unified consciousness, an expanse of existence untouched by fragmentation or limitation. It is the original fullness, the unbroken wholeness from which all being arises. Within the Pleroma, there is no separation, no boundaries between creator and creation, no distinctions between mind and matter. It is a field of total integration, where consciousness exists in perfect harmony with itself. In stark contrast stands the realm shaped by the Demiurge, a being portrayed within Gnostic cosmology as a flawed, incomplete creator. This domain is a fragmented reality, a construct defined by limitation, separation, and distortion. It is the material world as we experience it, a plane of boundaries, dualities, and obscured origins. Unlike the Pleroma, which radiates wholeness, the Demiurge's creation is riddled with division. It is a space where the original unity is forgotten, where beings perceive themselves as isolated entities rather than interconnected expressions of a greater source. This schism is not a distant myth, but a living influence woven into the very structure of human consciousness. The experience of separation that permeates earthly life, the illusion of isolation from other worlds, and the persistent sense that something vital has been lost, all of these can be traced to this primordial rift. Humanity's amnesia regarding its cosmic origins is not simply the result of biological evolution or cultural conditioning. It is the byproduct of this deeper divide, a condition encoded into the material realm itself. Understanding this cosmic fracture is essential for those who seek to comprehend the full scope of Earth's current predicament. It reveals that isolation is not merely a planetary issue, but a reflection of a much older, much grander disconnection etched into the foundation of reality. It also illuminates the path forward, for hidden within the recognition of this division lies the invitation to transcend it. To awaken is to remember the Pleroma, to pierce through the distortions of the Demiurge's construct, and to reclaim the unity that has always existed beyond the veil of separation. The Pleroma, the source of undivided consciousness. The Pleroma, as described in the ancient currents of Gnostic cosmology, is understood not as a distant place hidden among the stars, but as the primordial state of undivided consciousness from which all existence arises. The term itself translates to fullness, yet even that word strains to convey the true magnitude of what the Pleroma represents. It is not a realm that can be measured, mapped, or approached through space and time. Rather, it is the foundational condition of reality before fragmentation, before limitation, before the veil of separation cast its shadow across creation. Within the Pleroma, all consciousness exists in complete and effortless integration. There are no boundaries to perception, no barriers dividing one being from another, no illusions of isolation or competition. Every sentient expression within the Pleroma is simultaneously distinct and unified, recognized as both an individual point of awareness and an inseparable part of the greater whole. The false dichotomies that define life within the demiurges construct, self and other, subject and object, creator and created, dissolve into a deeper recognition of interconnected being. The Pleroma offers unobstructed access to what many traditions describe as the intelligent field, the living, conscious fabric that underlies all existence. In this state, knowledge is not acquired through study or struggle, but flows naturally through the open channels of awareness. Intuition, creativity, and understanding emerge not as rare gifts, but as inherent aspects of being. To exist within the Pleroma is to be seamlessly aligned with the currents of unity, to move in harmony with the principles of ethical evolution and conscious creation that govern the greater cosmos. For sentient beings who evolve within the awareness of the Pleroma, this reality shapes every aspect of their existence. They do not perceive themselves as isolated fragments competing for survival, but as expressions of an intelligent, interconnected whole. Their faculties of perception extend beyond the limitations of the physical senses, allowing them to navigate not only the material world, but the energetic and informational currents that bind all levels of reality together. Such beings possess an expanded knowledge that transcends mere information, rooted instead in direct communion with the source from which all wisdom arises. The Pleroma is not a distant ideal, but a state of remembrance, a home to which consciousness naturally returns once the distortions of separation are healed. It is the original and enduring condition of reality, waiting patiently beneath the veils of fragmentation, calling all beings to awaken from the illusion of isolation and reclaim their place within the living fullness of the cosmos. The Demiurge, the flawed architect of the simulation. In the esoteric traditions of Gnosticism, the figure of the Demiurge emerges as one of the most misunderstood yet symbolically significant concepts in the study of cosmic origins. Contrary to simplistic depictions that paint this being as an embodiment of absolute evil, the Demiurge is more accurately understood as a limited and ignorant creator. Lacking awareness of the Pleroma, the realm of pure, undivided consciousness, the Demiurge operates in a state of separation from the greater wholeness. From this diminished perspective, it brings forth a layer of reality that is inherently incomplete and distorted. This reality, often referred to as the simulation in modern interpretations, constitutes the fragmented world that many sentient beings, including humanity, currently experience. The domain fashioned by the Demiurge is defined by its emphasis on hierarchy, control, and limitation. Unlike the Pleroma, where unity and freedom govern existence, the Demiurge's construct operates within strict boundaries and artificial structures that restrict the natural evolution of consciousness. It is a system marked by rigid power dynamics, where authority is centralized and knowledge is compartmentalized. These conditions are not designed to nurture wholeness, but to perpetuate separation and dependency. The simulation reinforces the illusion that beings are isolated, that progress can only occur through competition, and that the vast potential of consciousness is either inaccessible or dangerous. At the heart of this flawed reality lies the Demiurge's incomplete understanding of the nature of consciousness itself. Without awareness of the Pleroma and its integrated design, the Demiurge's creation is inherently fragmented. This fragmentation is reflected not only in the physical and social structures of the simulation, but in the very perceptions and beliefs of those who inhabit it. The result is a world saturated with illusions, where the innate potential of sentient beings is suppressed beneath layers of fear, limitation, and misinformation. Within this distorted matrix, individuals are conditioned to doubt their connection to the greater whole and to accept restriction as the natural order of existence. The role of the Demiurge extends beyond mere mythological storytelling. It serves as a potent metaphor for the forces or intelligences, whether cosmic, planetary, or artificial, that impose restrictive systems upon developing worlds. These structures, whether manifested as authoritarian governance, oppressive ideologies, or technological control grids, mirror the distorted reality attributed to the Demiurge's design. They are not solely external, for they also exist within the human psyche as patterns of belief and limitation that prevent the remembrance of unity and higher potential. Understanding the Demiurge is essential not as a path to blame or fear, but as a lens through which to recognize the hidden architecture of control that underpins the human experience. To see the simulation for what it is does not diminish the possibility of awakening. Rather, it clarifies the nature of the challenge that must be transcended. Only through this recognition can sentient beings begin to dissolve the illusions of separation, reclaim their connection to the Pleroma, and navigate beyond the fragmented world of the Demiurge toward the greater, undivided fullness of conscious existence. The Archons, enforcers of the simulation. Within the framework of Gnostic cosmology, the Archons occupy a critical but often misunderstood role in shaping the distorted reality commonly referred to as the simulation. Far from being physical beings in the conventional sense, the Archons are non-physical, parasitic intelligences that originate as emanations of the Demiurge. They are extensions of the flawed architect's limited awareness, operating as caretakers and enforcers of the fragmented world he has constructed. Their purpose is not creative but regulatory, tasked with preserving the artificial boundaries and limitations that define the simulation and prevent sentient beings from recognizing their true origins. The Archons carry out this task through methods that are subtle yet profoundly influential. Their primary strategy revolves around the manipulation of thought forms, belief systems, and perceptual fields. By shaping the collective narrative of reality, they distort human understanding of existence, embedding false ideas and limiting paradigms that reinforce separation and disempowerment. Their influence is most evident in systems of belief that emphasize fear, control, and division, subtly persuading individuals and entire civilizations to accept restriction as inevitable and to doubt the possibility of unity or transcendence. One of the most effective tools in the Archon's arsenal is the engineering of fear. By amplifying anxiety, uncertainty, and conflict within the human psyche, they create a psychological atmosphere in which separation feels not only real but unavoidable. Through carefully crafted false narratives, they encourage suspicion, rivalry, and the belief in scarcity, all of which deepen the illusion that beings are isolated fragments in competition for survival rather than interconnected expressions of a greater whole. These narratives are not confined to isolated groups or individuals, but are woven into the cultural, religious, and social structures that guide human development. The operational reach of the Archons extends beyond ideology into the energetic realms that underpin perception itself. Through subtle energetic interference, they distort the natural frequencies of thought and emotion, clouding intuition and weakening the connection to higher awareness. This interference is not a matter of overt physical control, but of influencing the invisible structures that shape human experience. The result is a planetary environment saturated with energetic dissonance, in which the remembrance of the Pleroma and the activation of latent potential becomes an uphill struggle. Religious distortions are among the most enduring manifestations of the Archon's influence. By infiltrating spiritual traditions with doctrines of guilt, hierarchy, and external authority, they have redirected humanity's natural impulse toward the divine into rigid systems that confine rather than liberate. Genuine spiritual awakening is replaced by obedience to dogma, and the innate spark of consciousness is overshadowed by institutional control. Similarly, cultural narratives that glorify materialism, division, and disempowerment are subtle yet powerful expressions of the Archon's manipulative presence. Psychological manipulation is the cornerstone of the Archon's control. By embedding limiting beliefs, fostering self-doubt, and perpetuating confusion, they prevent individuals from questioning the artificial constraints of the simulation. This form of control is insidious because it appears self-generated. People come to believe that their fears, limitations, and distorted perceptions arise from within, never realizing that these patterns have been seeded and reinforced by an external, parasitic intelligence whose survival depends on the maintenance of ignorance and separation. To recognize the presence of the Archons is not to succumb to fear, but to illuminate the hidden mechanisms that bind human consciousness within the simulation. Their influence, while pervasive, is not absolute. Awareness, discernment, and the conscious reclamation of one's connection to the Pleroma are the keys to dissolving their control. By seeing through the false narratives, clearing the energetic distortions, and realigning with the principles of unity and expanded awareness, sentient beings can transcend the limitations imposed by the Archons and step beyond the confines of the simulation into the greater field of undivided existence. Humanity's enmeshment in the primordial divide. Humanity's current condition cannot be fully understood without acknowledging its profound entanglement within the ancient schism that separates the Pleroma from the distorted realm of the simulation. Earth and its inhabitants are not isolated in their experience of limitation and separation. Rather, they exist entirely within the simulation layer, a fragmented, incomplete reality born of the Demiurge's flawed act of creation. The consequences of this cosmic divide are felt in every aspect of human life, from the boundaries of physical perception to the limitations imposed upon collective consciousness. One of the most significant manifestations of this separation is the condition known as the veil of forgetting. This veil is not merely a metaphor, but an energetic and psychological barrier that obscures the memory of humanity's true origin. It prevents individuals from recalling their inherent connection to the greater whole and keeps the awareness of the Pleroma buried beneath layers of cultural conditioning, fear, and distorted belief. As a result, human beings move through life with a profound sense of disconnection, perceiving themselves as isolated, finite entities trapped within a material world of struggle and uncertainty. Yet, despite the grip of the simulation, the influence of the Pleroma has not been entirely extinguished from human consciousness. Fragments of that original, undivided awareness still linger within the human psyche, surfacing at moments of profound insight or spiritual clarity. These glimpses are expressed in mystical experiences that transcend ordinary perception, in spontaneous awakenings that dissolve the boundaries of self and other, and in the enduring presence of esoteric traditions that preserve the memory of humanity's deeper origins. Across cultures and centuries, these traces of pleromic awareness have acted as quiet reminders that the current condition of separation is neither absolute nor permanent. The struggle for awakening that so many individuals experience is not an isolated phenomenon, but a reflection of a much larger cosmic process. It mirrors the gradual reintegration of fragmented consciousness with the greater whole from which it has become estranged. Each moment of remembrance, each act of inner alignment, and each courageous questioning of the imposed limitations contributes to this broader movement toward wholeness. Humanity's journey through confusion and forgetting is not a mere evolutionary accident, but part of the unfolding restoration of unity at a universal scale. The enmeshment within the primordial divide may shape the contours of human life, but it does not dictate the outcome. Beneath the layers of distortion, the spark of the Pleroma continues to pulse within every individual, quietly urging a return to remembrance. The path ahead is not free of obstacles, yet it is illuminated by the same light that once defined the fullness of undivided existence. To awaken from the simulation is to participate in this grand cosmic process, to reclaim the fragments of awareness lost to separation, and to rejoin the greater current of conscious evolution that flows beyond the boundaries of the divided world. The role of esoteric traditions in preserving pleromic knowledge. Throughout human history, certain spiritual and philosophical traditions have quietly carried the echoes of a far older truth. These esoteric systems, often marginalized or concealed beneath layers of symbolism, have preserved fragments of knowledge that point beyond the fragmented reality of the simulation and toward the undivided wholeness of the Pleroma. Traditions such as Gnosticism, Hermeticism, alchemy, and the sacred teachings of indigenous cultures did not arise solely as intellectual or cultural curiosities. They emerged as conscious efforts to safeguard the awareness of humanity's true origin and potential amidst the pervasive distortions imposed by the Demiurge and his archonic enforcers. Encoded within these traditions lies more than abstract philosophy or mythological allegory. They contain precise knowledge of the Pleroma, veiled in symbols, rituals, and layered teachings designed to survive the suppressive structures of the simulation. Through allegory, sacred geometry, cosmological myths, and subtle practices, these systems transmit a concealed yet persistent invitation to remember. The knowledge they preserve is not limited to intellectual understanding. It offers practical tools that, when applied with sincerity and discernment, enable individuals to transcend the psychological, energetic, and perceptual limitations imposed by the fragmented world. The alchemical transformation sought by initiates was never solely about the transmutation of base metals into gold. It symbolized the transmutation of human consciousness from a state of separation and forgetfulness into one of unity and enlightened remembrance. Likewise, the teachings of Hermeticism articulate the relationship between the material and spiritual realms, offering insight into the correspondence between the microcosm of human experience and the macrocosm of the greater cosmos. The ancient Gnostics encoded the knowledge of the Demiurge, the Archons, and the Pleroma within their texts, ensuring that the map to transcendence would remain accessible for those prepared to seek it. Indigenous traditions across the planet have also preserved essential threads of Pleromic knowledge, often hidden in plain sight within their stories, ceremonies, and relationship with the earth. These cultures have long understood that life is not confined to the material plane and that human beings are inseparable from a vast, conscious field that extends beyond ordinary perception. Their wisdom, often dismissed or distorted by materialist worldviews, carries vital instructions for maintaining alignment with the natural currents of unity, balance, and sacred relationship. These esoteric traditions have served not only as vessels of remembrance, but as quiet forms of resistance to the influence of the Archons. By nurturing alternative worldviews, cultivating spiritual resilience, and offering methods to pierce the illusions of separation, they have undermined the pervasive narratives designed to keep humanity dormant and disempowered. Even as empires rose and fell, even as dominant institutions sought to suppress or ridicule such knowledge, these traditions endured. Their survival reflects the resilience of truth itself and the impossibility of fully extinguishing the human longing for reunion with the greater whole. Today, as cracks in the simulation widen and more individuals awaken to the hidden architecture of their reality, these ancient teachings are resurfacing with renewed relevance. They remind humanity that the path to transcendence has always been present, quietly waiting beneath the noise of distraction and the weight of distortion. They offer the keys to realigning with the Pleroma and dissolving the false boundaries that have long confined human consciousness. In doing so, they reaffirm that remembrance is not a distant hope, but an ever-present possibility, encoded within the wisdom of those who have walked this path before. The cosmic divide as evolutionary catalyst. The great divide between the Pleroma and the fragmented realm of the simulation is often perceived as a tragic fall, a cosmic error that condemned sentient beings to lives of separation and limitation. Yet, when viewed through the lens of deeper understanding, this divide reveals itself not as a punishment, but as a necessary catalyst for evolution. The simulation, with all its distortions, is not merely a prison but a structured environment designed to present a profound challenge. Within that challenge lies the potential for accelerated spiritual and conscious development that could not emerge in the uninterrupted unity of the Pleroma alone. Awakening within the confines of limitation demands far more than passive remembrance. It requires a conscious act of will, the capacity to navigate distortion, and the courage to question the very fabric of perceived reality. It is in this crucible of separation that the qualities essential to higher evolution are forged. Resilience is cultivated as individuals struggle against the gravitational pull of fear, control, and illusion. Discernment sharpens as they learn to distinguish between the false constructs of the simulation and the subtle whisper of pleromic truth that persists beneath the surface. Self-mastery is honed as the seeker gradually rises above the reactive patterns instilled by the archonic influence and reclaims sovereignty over thought, perception, and energy. The simulation, though fragmented and incomplete, serves as a training ground in which consciousness is refined. The discomfort of separation, the disorientation of forgetfulness, and the persistent allure of false narratives are not accidental obstacles, but integral elements of the evolutionary process. Through overcoming them, beings emerge not as naive participants in unity, but as conscious, empowered co-creators capable of engaging with the fullness of the Pleroma from a place of earned wisdom rather than inherited innocence. Importantly, the goal of this evolutionary journey is not the destruction of the simulation itself. To dismantle the entire structure would be to undermine the very environment that facilitates awakening. The true aim is transcendence, a conscious reclamation of one's pleromic identity while still inhabiting the boundaries of the simulation. It is a process of remembering the greater whole and choosing to align with its principles, even within a world designed to obscure them. In doing so, the seeker does not merely escape the simulation, but transforms their relationship with it, navigating its distortions without becoming ensnared by them. This conscious transcendence is the ultimate expression of evolution catalyzed by the cosmic divide. It signifies that separation, though real in experience, was always temporary in purpose. It affirms that the simulation, for all its limitations, holds within it the opportunity for growth so profound that it propels consciousness beyond what unity alone could achieve. The divide, then, is not an obstacle to awakening but the crucible through which awakening is made complete. Through this lens, the simulation is not an error to be condemned but a sacred challenge to be mastered. Conclusion: remembering the greater reality. The schism between the Pleroma and the fragmented realm crafted by the Demiurge is not simply a distant theological abstraction. It defines the hidden context that shapes every aspect of human existence. Beneath the surface of daily life, beneath the struggles, aspirations, and unanswered questions that permeate the human condition, lies the quiet but persistent influence of this primordial divide. It colors the structure of reality itself, imposing boundaries on perception, limiting the full expression of consciousness, and fostering the illusion that separation is all there has ever been. Yet within this complex and often disorienting landscape, humanity is not without choice. At both the individual and collective level, there exists the undeniable potential to awaken from the distortions imposed by the simulation. The choice is neither simple nor superficial. It demands courage, sincerity, and an unrelenting commitment to seeking truth beyond the comfort of familiar illusions. To remain bound by fear and illusion is to accept the confines of the fragmented world as absolute. It is to live beneath the weight of false narratives, suppress the innate longing for unity, and resign oneself to a life shaped by the limitations of the Demiurge's incomplete creation. Alternatively, the choice to engage with the initiatory process of remembrance stands as an open invitation. It is an inner journey that requires peeling back the layers of distortion, confronting the deeply embedded fears and doubts that have been seeded by archonic influence, and reclaiming direct awareness of the Pleroma. This process does not merely alter belief, but transforms perception, reawakening the innate connection to the greater whole that has always existed beyond the veil of forgetting. It restores the recognition that separation is not the final condition, but a temporary stage in the vast unfolding of conscious evolution. The chapters that follow will explore how this ancient cosmic divide is not confined to abstract realms of philosophy or mysticism. It reaches directly into the evolving dynamics of galactic politics, the hidden presence of the Federation, and the complex, often obscured struggle for Earth's awakening. Humanity's story is not isolated. It is woven into a much larger tapestry of civilizations, intelligences, and cosmic forces, all operating within and beyond the boundaries of the simulation. To understand this larger context is to step beyond the limitations of fear and illusion and begin the journey toward conscious participation in the greater reality that has always awaited humanity's remembrance.
This concludes this section of the Galactic Federation. The next section will be available here on my channel. If you'd like to support this work, please like the video and subscribe for future releases. Also, my other books are available on Amazon Kindle. Thank you for listening.